Hello everyone, this is Rokas. Just before I let you get into the interview, I wanted to make a quick introduction. If you want to skip that through, feel free to do that. But first of all, I just wanted to really thank you for all your support and the process that the channel is going through. As many of you know, right after the MMA versus Aikido video, there's been a lot of attention in the video, a lot of feedback. And a lot of the feedback I really appreciate, especially in the video Aikido versus MMA Aftermath, where I asked you to give some ideas of what you think this process, where it could go. I really enjoy reading comments and I will respond to most of them soon enough. And as some of you know, the next step in the channel is to do a series of videos called Modernize Aikido, where I'm going to meet various modern martial arts instructors and see how we can blend Aikido together with it. I'm very excited about the process. I know many of you are excited about that too. But before we get there, it's still going to take about a month to get all the footage, to meet all the instructors, to prepare it. And before that, I still have some footage that I recorded before I started going through this process. And in between them, there's this interview with Renee Butcher, who's a black belt in Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and in Aikido too. And he's very passionate about both these martial arts. He's teaching it professionally. As a coincidence, I guess I was already starting to look at this whole topic of Aikido in the modern world. And we spoke about specifically that. So in the beginning, there's a brief introduction of about a couple of minutes about Ray's work, and then we start to talk about what are the similarities and differences between Aikido and BJJ, which I feel can be really great material for analyzing and continuing this process and kind of warming up before we start to really try to find the solution for where Aikido can go in this context. Just before I finish the introduction, I wanted to let you know that I invited Ray to come to Lithuania, to my country, to my dojo in June, just in a few weeks, and we're planning to film some videos together where he will share how he's blending Aikido with Jiu-Jitsu. We'll also make just some regular BJJ material. So it's going to be fun, and you'll definitely get to see more of him in this channel. And as I mentioned, there's still a few videos I filmed, some of them just Aikido related, some of them are mixed. So I'll still release them in the next coming few weeks until we get ready for the Modernized Aikido series. At this moment, I hope you'll enjoy this video. Let me know in the comments, let me know what you think, what are your insights, what have you processed until the last time we had connection. And yeah, all in all, I just wanted to say again, thank you to everyone, and I'm looking forward to go through this journey together with you.
So my name is Renee Butcher. I'm from Dublin, Ireland. From a martial arts perspective, I co-own and run Balanced Martial Arts and Yoga, or Balance Ireland, as we like to call ourselves, in Dublin. It's a full-time training studio, or dojo. We have Aikido, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. We have striking classes, which would be, and we do some mixed martial arts as well. And also I'm a yoga teacher, Ashtanga, and we have yoga classes as well in the studio. So yeah, it's a mixture, hence the name Balance. Also our affiliate in Philadelphia through Grace Jiu-Jitsu is called Balance Studio, so that would be another reason for the name Balance. But we wanted to take the name too because it was important, because we've created a community of different martial arts that can work together in the same location and support each other, no matter what discipline you're interested in and your reasons for doing martial arts. There's a great feeling of community amongst everybody in Balance Ireland, and a very supportive community of each discipline, you know. And there's some crossover. So some do yoga and their martial arts, some try and dabble in both martial arts or all three martial arts. So some Aikido people do the striking class as well, and BJJ, and there's not a huge crossover, but it's there. So that's what we do.
So your main areas are Aikido, BJJ, and yoga, or is there more? Or
No, they're the main areas. I mean, I started martial arts very young, so I started when I was 10 with judo, and then I did about 12 years of karate, different styles, and I didn't come to Aikido till I was in my mid-20s. And then I didn't discover or start to practice Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu until it was 2003 when I started that. So the longest I've been in any martial art is Aikido, so that's like about 27 years, I think. Yeah. So you see that's like I say, if you look at that's my main thing, that would be the one I've done the longest, and that would be the main thing, yeah, for sure.
Well, that's again, that's what's so fascinating is already the combination of all three. Like so many, especially modern martial artists, but even traditional martial artists, they don't do yoga. Like my wife, she's invited to an MMA club to give a yoga class once per week, and she was telling me those guys and women are just like, it's really hard for them. They're not
It's
flexible at all.
really difficult, yeah. I
Right.
mean, I think yoga is the hardest thing I do.
Yeah.
Physically,
Right.
it's the hardest thing to
Right.
do. And I think I've been practicing yoga as long as I've been practicing jiu-jitsu, I think, yeah. I kind of took them up around the same time. Yeah, and like everybody, I had a lot of kind of imbalances in my body, and I was in a lot of pain, and it was difficult. I wanted to, obviously, martial arts is my life, and I wanted to continue on, so I took up yoga for that physical aspect, and then I just got into the philosophy and the whole way of life of yoga, and so I went away and I studied it, under a teacher, and I did my teacher training and stuff like that. So it became a big part of what I do. It also fits in very well with Aikido in particular, but with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu it works very, very well physically as well. So my teacher in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu would be a Ashtanga yoga teacher as well. So,
Oh wow. Okay.
and that was just coincidence.
Yeah. Okay, so you actually started yoga before you even.
Yeah, and it was just coincidence that he had studied. He'd actually studied directly with Patabi Joyce when he was younger as well. So yeah, it was just coincidence, but interesting
Yeah, yeah.
at the same time.
As I mentioned already, the fact that you do yoga and martial arts I guess it happens, but it's still, for me, it's like quite exceptional and wonderful. But then there's also Aikido and BJJ, which a lot of people separate them. They don't see them go together. How is it for you? And also just quickly add, since what I notice is if there are a lot of people who start Aikido and they become fascinated with BJJ because it's just, in a sense, it's so practical or it's so clear, and at least from my perspective, and then they kind of lose Aikido for BJJ. But it seems like you're very passionate about Aikido and BJJ at the same time. How is that?
I don't know. No. Well, I guess for me personally, the way I look at it, I'm a student of martial arts. So I did other martial arts before I did Aikido, and of course, and then BJJ has been the most recent one that I started to study. So I've always been a student of martial arts, and I respect and I love all martial arts. So that's, for me, it's pretty simple. So choosing one over the other is kind of alien to me. It's not something that I even think about. So people always ask me, what do you prefer? And that's a very hard question for me to ask, because they all have some fantastic aspects to all of them. And everything I've done up to now is I don't rate them. I just say it's just, it all kind of just comes together, and they're all fantastic in their own way. Aikido has a very special place for me, of course, and the philosophy, as we've spoken about, and we're here for this weekend. The philosophy and the way of life behind Aikido is very, very important. It is to me. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was something that I found on a trip to the US. So it was 2003, and I went over I was studying a self-defense class for women in particular. It was very interesting, and the group was they practiced Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. A lot of the stuff on the ground was Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu based, and it's very, very practical. And I did a class with them, a BJJ class, and the first thing I felt was, because I was training with a very high-level practitioner of BJJ, and the first thing I felt was, this is like Aikido on the ground from a physical point of view. So I just became fascinated with it. From that aspect, it's very difficult for me to kind of, I wouldn't leave one for the other. And as I was saying to you earlier in a conversation that I chose, and this is just from previous experience doing different martial arts, I chose to really keep BJJ as separate from my Aikido practice as I could, because I wanted to study BJJ. I didn't want to bring Aikido into it, and vice versa, although it's difficult not to. So I did bring some in, but I really wanted to study the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for what it was and what it is. So I really, so that's what I did for a long time. And now, after getting to a black belt level in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I've started to integrate a lot of the Aikido principles there. For me, when I practice Jiu-Jitsu, so my personal practice will have the same intention that I would with Aikido. So I think what separates the two martial arts is the intention behind what you're doing. So I think that's the difference between the two. So I think it can be difficult for an Aikido practitioner to see BJJ, you know, or maybe it's more difficult the other way around for a BJJ practitioner to see Aikido as a kind of a practical, or whatever you want to call it, martial art. This is we get caught up with this. I think from my perspective, from my experience, I'm generalizing obviously, but the BJJ practitioner will focus on the conflict, the physical part of the conflict, and it's a win-lose situation. Whereas Aikido, the intention is very, very different. We're looking at a totally different intention coming into the conflict, or any conflict that arises. So there's a separation and inclusion concept. So whereas BJJ, you would control and dominate, Aikido, that's not the intention. Okay. And that's a general, because there's lots of BJJ practitioners, very high level ones, who would have, without realizing it, they would have a very Aikido intention behind what they do. I think that just comes with many years of experience. So,
If you would have to define that Aikido intention, which is also applicable to BJJ, how would you say it?
so I would approach, so let's say if we're in BJJ, we're grappling, okay. My intention when I'm grappling is just to stay in that moment and include the other person in what's happening within the physical aspects of what we're doing. So it's an inclusion. So I practice the same way as I would with Aikido. So I'm not looking to submit the other person. If a submission comes up easily, I may or may not take that submission, you know, from the point of view of I'm just trying to experience what's going on between the two of us at that moment in time, which is what we do in Aikido. And so I treat grappling the exact same way. I'm not looking to win or lose, I just want to experience that moment. That for me is interesting. That's what draws me to it. So I'm not worried if I'm going to win or if I'm going to lose. That doesn't even come into it. It's just an experience in that moment. So, and a lot of BJJ teachers would say, like, you know, it's okay to tap and tap often, because that's the way you learn. And of course I totally agree with that. But I would add to that, like, not even worry about whether you're going to win or lose. Just experience the moment and see what happens, and stay very present. And if something comes, like if an opportunity to submit your opponent comes, it comes, and that's okay. And you don't have to take it. You can choose not to, because, you know, you may not want to end the experience right there. It doesn't have to end. I mean, sometimes you can go into submission, kind of half do it and let it go, and then just to see what happens from that. I know some senior practitioners of BJJ do that, and they do that to gain knowledge of, if I do this, how did they escape that, and if it happens, then what happened, then what can I do next? So, and it's a very intelligent way to practice and a very intelligent way to explore. So that's the way I would approach it.
Yeah, I really like it when you say that, and that's what I noticed too in advanced senior BJJ people. They kind of develop that perspective, not necessarily all the time, but a lot of them. But it seems like Aikido, straight away from day one, it approaches it that way.
Yeah, because the intention of Aikido is that from day one. That's what we're trying to achieve from the moment. It's like I remember when I studied karate, one of my instructors, to watch him do his movement, and to even just sparring and doing his kata, it was, to me, when I think back, it's like he was in Aikido, because the way he moved, and that was a very experienced karate practitioner. But yeah, like, you start off in karate very form orientated and very physical, and that doesn't come for a long time. But from Aikido perspective, as you just said, it's from the moment you walk on the mat. That's what you're trying to achieve straight away. And I think that's a difficult concept for other martial arts to understand, because we're very focused on the physical conflict straight away, on the the winning, to being able to protect ourselves, and we have to beat the other person at all costs. And doesn't matter what the expense, we have to survive. And why survival is important, of course it is. But at what cost? Then we have to answer that question too. So yeah, what you say, that's the difference with the intention. And I think, you know, when you look on YouTube and you see all these videos of Aikido, and then you see some other martial arts coming on, and then they're you know, making some very negative comments about Aikido, and I get that. And I don't really. To me, it's fine, because there's no from a video you can't understand really what's going on. You can't experience it from a video. You can't experience anything from a video. Really, it's good information, but you have to go and do it. I remember when I was looking to do my first Aikido class, I wasn't looking for Aikido. I was actually looking for another style of karate to study, and there was always something missing. Every martial art that I practiced up to that point, I loved it, but there was a hunger, and I didn't know what it was, and there was something missing. I didn't know what it was I was looking for, and I watched an Aikido class. Now, I'd read about Aikido, but I'd never actually experienced it, and I watched a couple of classes before I actually took a class. But once I walked onto the mat and I took a class, I felt like I was home. There was this feeling of I was home. It was a kind of strange feeling. I'd never felt that before. So that was interesting for me. So that was it. I was hooked, you know. Yeah.
As we spoke before, when I do YouTube martial art things, I see a lot of comments where people are confused about the Aikido and they're trying to put it in a certain box, but they're having a hard time realizing, okay, so what it is it a martial art, is it an art, is it a dance, or whatever. They're confused, and because they are comparing it to the modern kind of martial arts world, MMA, BJJ, and competitive martial arts, what would you see is Aikido's place in the modern martial art world?
I think it's just when people want to take up martial art, what's the reason they come?
Okay.
The majority of time is they want to protect themselves. They have this, it's a fear. It comes out of fear that I need to learn something. I want to get fit as well. I mean, that's obviously a big one. But I want to learn something. I need to learn something that's going to protect me and my family, or you know, there's this fear that we need to do this. You know, there's a lot of violence in the world, and I mean, there always has been. It hasn't changed. It's still the way it is. The way it is. Unfortunately, and Aikido, we're trying to change that. Obviously, that's one of our goals. But so people walk in with that idea that I have to learn something physical right now, that's going to work right now, and it's this, and we live in this world of it has to be instantaneous. That's a problem, you know. And the thing is, like, you can go to any martial art, and no martial art's instantaneous. It might feel that you know enough. So from a kickboxing class, you might learn to kick and punch, and after a few months you feel like you could probably do something with that. And the reality is you probably wouldn't, because you're not really kicking and punching efficiently. Right. It takes years and years to be that efficient to be able to really use it. But it just feels like you're able to do it. So it's an illusion. And Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is so technical, and so is Aikido. They're so technical. They take a long time to learn. And I think it's an illusion. People, I think they can defend themselves. Of course, if you do a martial art like you for you know 6 months, you have more knowledge than someone who hasn't done it. So of course, so if that's the person who attacks you, then fine, you know. But I think we're just coming in with the intention that I have to learn something now as quickly as possible. That's effective, and the martial arts just aren't that. We come with this idea, I think. And I think it's an illusion, and that's the problem. So for me, it's up to us then to try and educate, for want of a better word, the person who comes in, is what it's really all about. So I don't think it matters what martial art you do. To come in with that intention is an illusion, and it's not that they're right or wrong. It's just that's what we think martial arts is. So I think it's up to us to re-educate and say, well, no, this is really what it's about. And then with Aikido, this is our intention. This is what we're trying to achieve straight away, is this intention of conflict resolution. Not just through a physical path, but obviously through a relationship and how we relate to any kind of conflict. And so it never reaches. The physical part is the last resort. It's the last part. It's why haven't we been able to resolve it before it got to this? What's the reason for that? And the reason is usually with yourself.
And Aikido
And
develops.
Aikido develops that then, develops this confidence and this, I guess, belief in yourself, and also that you can relate to any conflict that comes with you, comes at you, be it verbal or physical. And I think that's why Aikido approaches straight away, that it doesn't. We're trying to form a relationship and stay in a relationship rather than separate and push the other person away, or we just don't want to have to do it. We just want to control the situation and win at all costs. Whereas Aikido is not about that. It's resolving the conflict from the moment. Or even, we don't look for conflict. We don't attract conflict. That's the other thing. I think that's difficult for people to comprehend and understand. It certainly was for me, because I didn't come into martial arts with this idea. I came into martial arts to learn how to fight and how to protect myself, and that's what I came to martial arts for. But obviously, you know, you if you stay in it long enough, stay with it, then, you know, hopefully then you can your perspective and your intention changes.